think I might have already.
I think Trin might be joining us later. Shayna, yay! Okay, so all right, so we should be live on the YouTube. I'm gonna check the YouTube. I'm gonna keep an eye on the YouTube. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. Ba-doop-boop, ba-doop-boo. Ba-da-dum-bum. Game of Thrones is my favorite. I'm going to miss the show very much.
No notification yet.
On Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh no. Is it broken again? Um, Someday you'll find it. The Facebook.
Oh wait, I think it's we're live.
Yay. Hello, my name is Chris Gray, and welcome to Behind the Iron Throne with your host, Jonathan Stomas, Stark Lover from the North.
Hi Emily.
It's not easy being green. Pre-show shenanigans. I'm so tired. I am exhausted. I'm not gonna lie, and I think I have a cold or allergies are really kicking in. So if I'm extra silly tonight, whoopsie daisy. Let's see here.
I think Trin might be joining us later.
Yay, Emily. Yay. Okay. Let's see here. Fan feedback and appreciation. Boom, ka ka goom, ka goo goo ba doo. Did I just lose my audio? No, I have it right here. There's nobody on YouTube right now. That's odd. One person on YouTube. One is the loneliest number that you ever did. Ugh. I just watched the. Oh, here we go. Irina says, cool. I just watched the PJ review and was not too impressed with it this time, honestly. What is the PJ review? Am I missing something?
I have no idea. Who said that?
Irina. I feel like I should know what that is. Hey, Shayna.
Irina, what's the PJ review? Maybe it's a Game of Thrones review, maybe? I don't know.
My fam and I are out finishing up some apps and a beer. I will be right back. Okay, cool. Cool beans. Better. I felt loud. Oh, Preston Jacobs. Okay.
I heard of that name before. I think I've seen.
Wonder what other podcasts people listen to. When I get enough people into live, I'll ask.
I think I've seen that YouTube channel.
I was watching History of Westeros yesterday on YouTube, I think it was. Aziz was there with Lady Gwen, and they were talking about.
They're on TV.
They were on YouTube. Ba-da-dum-bum. I only follow you guys and ESPN podcast. Gold star to you.
Yeah.
On YouTube channels, History of Westeros and Podcast Winterfell. I've never listened to Podcast Winterfell. Is it good? Okay. All fair disclosure, I'm going to come right out here and say it. I don't really listen to any other Game of Thrones podcast.
Me neither.
And I have a very good excuse. My excuse is, I don't want to take their content. Like if they come out with some really cool shit, I don't want to be like, oh, let's steal it and put it on my show. I try to make mine as authentic as possible, which is also why I do not go out and read fan theories on like Reddit. I don't read any Reddit. I stay away from all that shit. If you guys don't share it on the Facebook page or message it to us or in the email, I don't bother with it. Well, that's part of the truth. I am too tired to listen to other podcasts. Biggie, I do have a limited time, and I get very tired. I do other things online besides just podcasts.
I, on the other hand, listen to 8 hours of podcasting
You're a
a
podcast
day
fool, sir.
because I'm at work and I'm allowed and I do nothing but listen to a podcast at work. So I listen to 8 hours of podcasts, guys.
Storm of Spoilers is Joanna Robinson. You know, it's funny. I met a lot of podcasters, Ice and FireCon, and I tried to listen to some of like little blips of their podcast while I was there, and they're like, "Yeah, your show sounds really good," just because um, I didn't want to be like a complete idiot. I like Chloe's podcast. We had her on what 2 episodes ago, I think it was. From
No, last
New Zealand.
episode, last week.
Emily says, "I get what you mean, Chris. Whenever I hear anything on a podcast, I make sure to credit it so no one thinks it's my own theories. It gets hard separated. It does. Storm of Spoilers. Joanne is great. Her and Andrea are at very similar level. Yeah. Andrea is amazing. I don't know where Andrea is. She's supposed to be here. I'm going to message her real quick. She's supposed to be. Hey, Robert, did you get my response email, Robert? On the mixer that I use. I have to message Andrea real quick, and then we're going to get started. We got some people coming in live here, so we're getting this party started. All right, good. Goody gumdrops. Okay, Andrea and Trin may be joining us in about half an hour. All right, John. Podcast from our guys who used to podcast about Lost back in the day. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Biggie, too many podcasts. Some are very good, impartial. Others came hating the show so fast it was unbearable to listen to. Yeah, that's true. And I know we got a lot of I got a lot of messages for some of our angrier podcasts. But I hope that when we came out with our shows, we weren't too aggressive. You do what you can. You're not going to make everybody happy. So.
No, I
I
mean,
mean,
I
Bald Move
listen
is
to
good.
one Game of Thrones podcast, and that's Behind the Iron Throne.
Don't throw to 20. Yeah, Bald Move is good. And I'm going to get, I think it's Jay and Aaron. I'm going to try to get them on this podcast. I was supposed to try to get them this week. It's supposed to be tonight, but their schedule is crazy. I was on a podcast with them before on my friend Kente's network. They're nice, good people. Thank you, Irina. Andrea is definitely awesome. I am not awesome. John's awesome. My rest of my co-hosts are awesome. I'm pretty much just the guy that herds the cat. I'm the what do you call that guy? Orchestrator or the orchestrator?
Conductor.
I'm the conductor.
I think that's what they
And no
call
one
it.
ever sees my face. Well, you guys see my face, but you know what I mean. Everyone's like, wow, the conductor has a nice ass. I do have a nice ass. Cast of Thrones. See, I'm going to probably start listening to more of these other podcasts now that like the show's over, because we're going to podcast about show stuff and we're going to start swinging over to book stuff. And I'm going to break down some different things. We got a list of stuff we got going on. All right, let's see. Robert Martin, welcome. Justin, welcome. That's J Crew.
J Crew.
J Crew in the house. All right. Those are super funny. Yeah, there we go. All right. She hasn't responded, so John, we're just going to go.
Okay.
I think we're just going to start. Okay. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. Where are we? Okay. Here we go. And there's no sound, so we got to make the sound happen. I love when people come pre-show as we're just getting set up. And I love when people say post-show also. A lot of fun. That's when some of the crazy shit happens. Hello, Lilith. Yay, Lilith's here. I hope everyone has watched that you've all finished watching the Game of Thrones, right? Season 8, the whole thing, you're all good. I hope so, because there's going to be spoilers. I should probably mention. Well, it's in the intro. So. And I put it in the I did put it in the description too, if I remember correctly. I really don't want to spoil if I can help it. If you haven't seen it, then just come back.
Shouldn't there be shouldn't there be a universal time for spoilers, like 48 hours, and then it's like, I'm sorry, there should be like
an unwritten rule. Emily, you're right.
Rule.
Or no, you're right. It is fun. Depending on who's on the show, when we do the pre and post stuff, it can get pretty crazy.
Like I say for TV, there should be a 48-hour rule for TV.
Oh yeah.
And for movies, maybe a little bit longer because certain circumstances happen where you can't like watch a movie, like Endgame. I didn't see Endgame until Tuesday because I was at a Ice and Fire Con.
Kyle, welcome, Kyle. Axel. Let's see. All right. I think we're ready to begin. So the post-show shenanigans are finished. Danielle just joined us and Get Vocal. Welcome. Yay. Just recently got married. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, let's see here. Bada bada bing. Bada bada bing. All right, I promise we're not going to be yelling and screaming. I know that pisses people off. Oh, yes, Shayna, Wheel of Time. Hey, Catherine. I just finished rereading Wheel of Time not too long ago, and it's one of my favorites. I love a 4-hour drive from a movie theater, so I doubt I'll see Endgame until it's on Netflix. Yeah, Catherine, that's difficult. You have 4-hour drive?
Where do you live, Catherine? I mean,
Holy
I don't say where you
God.
live, but wow, that's crazy. 4 hours to a theater? Man, I couldn't live somewhere where I'm 4 hours away from a theater.
Yeah, I think Big E's right. They are making the WOT series.
Yeah, they are. I'm not sure what company it is, but they're making it.
WOT? Why am I having a hard time thinking of that?
Wheel of Time?
Oh, it's on Amazon.
Is it Amazon?
I think so. Did anyone see, this is from Brody. Welcome, Brody. Did anyone see the Terminator trailer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
The Terminator trailer, yeah.
A new one, okay.
There's going to be a lot of like Game of Thrones inspired stuff coming out soon.
Now, because we're not recording the podcast, I'll tell you, if you have halfway decent internet, there's a way, if you're very careful, you could do Put Locker, PUT Locker, and you could watch it that way.
I like F movies too.
Oh yeah, F movies. Yeah, we have a full house here, so we're gonna get rocking and rolling.
Like, there's gonna be a lot of good inspired Game of Thrones shows, guys.
All right, ready, John?
Yeah, I'm ready.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Warning, this podcast contains explicit language and spoilers. This is Behind the Iron Throne, your unofficial Game of Thrones podcast.
Okay, we're going to go right from there. All right, here we go, John. In 3, 2, 1. Well, hello. Welcome back to Behind the Iron Throne, one of your favorite Game of Thrones podcasts. I'm your host, Chris Gray, and I'm joined tonight by the man, the myth, the legend. He is an amazing human being from the north. He is King Dingaling, Lord Duckdarian of the Wicker people, General Jonathan Stomas Starklover. What's up, pal?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you today?
Oh, I'm just fine, diddly dee. The podcast life for me, my friends. And we have a great episode here, 221, May 23rd, 2019. I am, John and I are both Lannister lovers. John recently came out and said that he loves the Lannisters and they're the best of friends. If you believe that, I'll sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, let me just say that we are live on BehindTheIronThrone.tv, our YouTube channel. We are live at Facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne. And of course, we are at Get Vocal, GETVOKL.com. And we encourage you to stay for our after show where you can hang out with us at getvocal.com. It's an app, and it's a free app on iOS and Android. Or you can go to the website and you make sure you're using Chrome browser, and it'll work out pretty good. Now, we're give you a quick announcement. We're going to be recording on May 27th, 2019, and that's going to be the Monday after the behind the scenes episode comes out, the Game of Thrones behind the scene that's coming out on next Sunday. So we'll be going live. Now, this episode is our community chit chat episode. It's a bonus episode where we basically talk to you guys and we read what you guys want to talk about. Try to get you in the show way more than we usually do is, our goal. Now, if you guys have any ideas for future podcasts you want to hear from us, go ahead and email us at behindtheironthrone@gmail.com. Very, very simple to do. Now, I'm going to do some shout outs here real quick. And because we got people all over the place. And let's start out with, I'm going to try to do this on the YouTube first. Let me see who's participating. On the YouTube, we have Big E, we have Catherine, we have Paul, we have Shayna, we have Robert, we have, I think I said Catherine already. Big E, we got you. And I think that's it. Although we have 11 people watching, I can't see the other people's names, but that's okay. Over here at Get Vocal, we have Don't Grow to 20. Justin from J. Crew. Daniel, who recently got married. Congratulations. Yay. Sabrina. We have Alexander. We have Kyle. We have Nazim. Big Bad Brad USA. Oh, and Andrea's here. Andrea's here. I forgot the time. I'm going to get Andrea in here. Hold on a second. Oh, you'll be ready soon. Andrea will be joining us in a few minutes. Just message us, Andrea, when you're ready. And be careful of your microphone because it bangs around and it makes noise. I'm hoping that Trin will be joining us as soon as she gets done doing some stuff at home, maybe around 9 o'clock. It's about 8:48 right now. We started the live pre-show a little while ago. Let's see what I can find here on the Facebook. We have Robert Martin. We have Dina. We have David. We have Brody. We have Emily. We have Trin is watching. We have Irina. We have Kyle, Lilith, J. Crew, Justin, Robert, and I think I got everybody there. If I didn't, just go ahead and pop in and say hello. So, John, what an amazing season we had. And there's been a lot of back and forth in the community. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I was split. I first started hating, and I didn't like it at first. I watched it again after I had a good night's sleep, listened to one of our podcasts, and I thought a little bit differently. I think that there is a lot of details that were missed. I feel like they rushed a little bit, but I'm pretty satisfied, believe it or not. Now that I've had some time to kind of calm down and take more of a objective look at it instead of, oh my God, this is what I wanted to happen and it didn't. Trying to look at it more of a an online reviewer would look at it. And I think that given the budget, given the CGI and the costuming, and maybe the writing could have been better, but I think it was pretty good. It's definitely better than A Fade to Black.
Yeah, I love the season. I think in the moment people are like, yeah, it's not so great, or it didn't live up to their expectations. But I think over time, it's going to be better. It's going to be better over time. like a lot of things at the beginning everyone hates. Like apparently a lot of people are starting to like Batman v Superman. So and it's been a few years now. So give it some time, and I think in a few years we're gonna look back at this and be like, this is a really good season and a really good series finale.
Shout out to Rose, who just joined us here on the Facebook Live. And over on YouTube, we have Patrice. Welcome. Yeah, there's been a lot of hate. Matter of fact, I'm going to read a comment here from Big E. Big E says, I was amazed by the mainstream media and other internet outlets hate bashing Game of Thrones. Like, all of a sudden, they were Game of Thrones experts. Where were they from seasons 1 to 7? Unbelievable. They did it for clicks. And, that aggravates the shit out of me. You know, here I am podcasting for years. And all of a sudden, the big wigs come out and they're like, yeah, Game of Thrones was terrible. Everyone hated it. And, they get all these views and stuff. And it is very frustrating. And I don't know, did you notice that too, John?
I didn't like the bashing at all. I mean, it's these guys work hard on the show, and I mean, we got a lot of we got a great action sequences. I mean, everything was great. I don't understand. I want to read something that Don't Throw 20 said, and he goes, the multiple fan theories hurt the show. Everyone wanted their own ending, and everyone wanted to be right.
I don't think that the multiple fan theories hurt the show. I don't think it hurt anything, honestly. And you guys know, if you listen to the podcast, I don't buy into the theories. I am so non-theory that it should be illegal. Welcome, Will. I am, who still hasn't seen Batman vs. Superman. I think you should. We actually did a review on that on a podcast we do called Nerd Theater. You can find that wherever you get your podcast from. Let's see. Dina says, agreed. I feel like the bandwagoneers are the hate mongers that created that. Guess who's joined us? Sam, the Glycopedia.
Wikipedia.
Hi, what's up, Glycopedia? Brody says, when did bashing everything become cool? It became too cool, so now people had to start to not like it to be counterculture. Yeah, that's what it feels like. I definitely agree with you there. Mag H says the season for me was more visually stunning and more showing the action and story because of the shorter number of episodes than telling it perhaps. Gorgeous all the time. Yeah, I think that we all as fans can appreciate if we could have more of the show. You know what I mean? Like 7 and 8 should have been 10 episodes. I agree, Big E. However, they didn't want to do that. Go ahead, John.
So I'm going to throw a question out for the community. I agree. It should have been a full season 7, 10, a full season 8, and then maybe even go a short season 9. I'll throw this out to you guys. I know from my research, the actors wanted to do more episodes. I know HBO wanted to do it, but D&D didn't. If HBO would have just thrown out D&D and got someone else, like one of their lower guys that work with them, like probably one of their, like, I don't know what you call it, like lower level producers that have been working with D&D all these years to do it, would you guys have been down with that, or do you think it was a good idea to keep D&D?
Is that a question for the community?
Yeah. Like, so basically the question is, do you think HBO should have said, fuck D&D, we're going to go with 10 episodes season 7, 10 episodes season 8, and a half of season 9? Do you guys think that they should have done that, or were they right to stick with D&D?
Okay, and while you're doing that, Robert Martin says, I have been one of those online people defending D&D. Nothing is perfect. And these guys did an admirable job in a no-win situation that George R. R. Martin has himself finished. And people are agreeing with that for sure. Emily says season 8 was a very well done season. I agree the writing wasn't what it was in seasons 1 and 6, but my friend made a really good point. He said, since the cast was so narrowed down, if we had taken all 10 episodes in season 7 and 8, it could have dragged. That's no excuse for lack of clarity. Definitely needed more time, just not sure how much. Glycopedia, our very own Sam, says, I feel bad that people bash it. Do I have things I wish that could have been different? Sometimes, sure, but I respect the hell out of all the cast and crew who made it all happen. And I said this on podcasts before that, when I create content or my book, I'll give you an example. The book I wrote, Quit Smoking Like a Boss. I didn't sell many copies. It was a hard sell. People don't want to quit smoking. I get it. However, you put it out there and you pray that people are going to like it. People aren't going to like it. People are going to shit on you. I mean, people laugh and joke about, hate mail and bad, comments and podcasts. We get it all the time. You literally have to just do this. And if you're watching live, not watching live, I'm covering my eyes and just kind of like acting like I'm ignoring it, because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You make the best damn shit you can and you put your heart and soul into it. And if you give it your all, the people who are deserving will deserve it, and you'll have an amazing relationship with those people. At least that's the way I look at it. Let's see here. Biggie says there will not be another show like this in a long time, because the way we consume TV now with binge watch, the whole world watches this show. Yes, indeed. We have here, Paul says, absolutely should have gotten rid of D&D. Robert says that's hard to answer. It depends on whom they would have gotten. Will I think switching showrunners is fine. Paul says we needed more episodes to fill out the story and give us better writing. Our very own Trin Dovahkiin, I'm on my way. She's on her way to the podcast. D&D should have let Cogman take the reins. Shayna says agree. Trin. Biggie says D&D should let other writers to write the show, and they should just be the producers. Now, I'm trying to get to everybody's comments as quick as I can. I'm actually looking at 3 different chat rooms at the same time, so I appreciate your patience. Justin in Get Vocal says D&D purposely made it that way. They could have gotten producers of Westworld and could have a quality product. Sabrina, I would have been down to have more episodes to have better pacing. Don't throw to 20. I think D&D were crucial because it was their vision. Justin, they basically gave us 7 seasons plus 2 episodes, not 2 full seasons. Don't throw to 20. It's hard to end great shows that have large fan base. The more fans, the harder it is because you can't please everyone. Kyle says D&D didn't sign on to write a Song of Ice and Fire fan fiction, but it was still pretty sloppy writing. I'm going to go over here to Facebook.
Robert. Okay, go on. I'm on Facebook too.
Oh, do you want to read Facebook for me?
So we got Irina goes down with it as long as an extended guidance happens beforehand, a collaboration and a plan before just taking over. Dina goes, that's a crap shoot I'm not willing to take. I like season 8, but yes, would like more show. And Robert Martin goes, IMO HBO made the right decision sticking with D&D loyalty. The show could have used more episodes, but how much is enough before overstaying its Walking Dead? Welcome. Brody said, what is everyone's favorite episode of the series?
Oh, we'll answer that in just a second. Don't let me forget that. I want to answer that. Shayna says Doctor Who switches showrunners. One of my favorite shows of all time, Doctor Who. And you're absolutely right. Let's see. Patrice says there should have been 10 seasons like George R. R. Martin intended. Biggie says, remember the last season of Seinfeld? NBC offered everything to Jerry Seinfeld, but he said no. This is the last season, and NBC couldn't do anything about it.
10 seasons is too long.
I think that
there's no way I can't see unless you split, like, I think a 6-episode season 9 would have been suffice, and a full 10 episode 7 and 10 episode 8. I don't know how much, like, they were right on pace in my opinion by season 6. Like season 6, they were right on pace with all the stuff, and then they should have went a little bit longer from that on.
So somebody said that Walking Dead is a nightmare, right? I agree. I'm tired of zombies. Let's see here. Paul says, I understand that D&D were invested, but we aren't there for their ego. We are here to have a good story, filled up with no gaps, funny timelines, and dead-end stories. Shayna, how long was MASH on? Holy shitballs. MASH? Geez, that's been on for... It was on
That's a different era, though.
Yeah, but still, if we...
And it's a half hour versus an hour. Like
he says, if we have the books out, we could have 10 seasons.
I'll go on Facebook here.
So you're going to answer the question. What was the question again? Our favorite episode?
So, and we'll throw this out to everyone then, guys. What's your favorite episode of the series? We got here, so far we have Emily goes Battle Bastards.
Okay.
Samantha goes Ooh, that's tough. I love Battle of the Bastards because of it's how immersive it is. And Emily goes, Battle of the Bastards literally took my breath away. Otherwise, I really like the heavy dialogue episodes too. However, my favorite overall Game of Thrones moment is when Danny bought the Unsullied.
Okay. Sabrina says The Door. Andrea said, if George is helping, Andrea, that's our Andrea. If George is helping with the prequels, he could have traded to oversee whomever replaced Dave and Dan. Daniel is saying Hard Home. Let's see. In YouTube, Biggie says Baylor. Patrice says, I just think the last 2 seasons felt rushed. They just went with the plot points. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people feel that it was rushed. Book of the Stranger is Patrice. Book of the Stranger. Paul says Battle of the Bastards was amazing. Any scene with the Hound and Arya. Yeah, that is really hard to answer. I'm trying to think which one I like better. Let's see who else has got anything else in the Facebook.
Irina goes, well, Samantha goes, I love the politically heavy dialogue episodes. Irina goes, Winds of Winter. Emily's responding to Samantha goes, anytime Tywin had anything to say is my favorite. Irina goes, and that is not all based on source material. And I loved it. Emily goes, such a good one. That's my runner up. The whole opening sequence is phenomenal.
Robert says Red Wedding, Battle of the Bastards. Don't throw to 20. Oh, wait, Stefan. Wait, I missed one. Stefan. I think the Red Wedding dictated the potential for the emotional roller coaster we all came to love. Bunch of sadists. Don't throw to 20. I hope HBO doesn't do a Game of Thrones movie like they are doing with Deadwood. Oh, they're doing that with Deadwood? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're making a movie. It comes out, I think, in 2 weeks or something.
Welcome to the podcast, Trin, the Dragon Whisperer. What's up?
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Wonderful.
Okay, I'm sorry I wasn't here for the sound check and all that kind of stuff.
Great.
I have been trying to listen to you guys as I was preparing, so I've been trying to follow along with what you've been talking about. And there's a like since our podcast on Monday, there has been so much divisiveness within the community. So I just wanted to let you all know that I'm wearing my House Targaryen shirt right now. And even though I'll always be House Targaryen, like I'm still open to talking about other perspectives, and we should all sort of just be happy that we're in this awesome community. Just want to throw that out there first.
Yeah, and what's with the hate mail, guys? Come on. You're killing me with this shit. I mean, I know I keep saying I'm not going to read it, but it's so hard not to. It really is.
J. Crew, Lannisters for life.
Yay.
Yeah, if you guys like want to throw hate mail, please go on Twitter or any other form of social media, and I'm at Dovahkiin Trin. I would gladly discuss any of these points with you. Just don't send Chris the hate mail because he didn't have time for that. And if you really want to talk about things that we discuss in our podcasts and you are not here live to do it, I am perfectly happy to talk to you all about it in my most coherent fashion. I have had
Ashley.
Oh, go ahead.
Jordan. Welcome, Ashley Jordan.
Yes.
They are baiting me. They're absolutely
they're baiting you. Everybody's a troll. Come on. Especially with this fandom. Not saying that the fandom's bad, but like it's such a popular show now, whereas 6 or 7 years ago it wasn't as popular. So we have more fans when you have more fans, you have a certain percentage that's going to be trolls.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think Trin and I were talking about this yesterday on the phone, and I have the theory that nobody kicks a dead dog. So if your show sucks and no one's listening to you, you don't get hate mail. You don't get anything. You get like 10 listeners, and we were there. We were there 7 years ago. Thank you, Sabrina, and I love you guys. You guys are awesome, but they know it does aggravate me, and I'll tell you why it does. Because and I try so hard not to read it, but sometimes I have gotten bad email where I was able to contact the person and say, tell me what's going on, and then they either become a part of the show, or I see something that I might have missed. I really try to learn from everything, and we want to put something out that you guys love. It makes it a lot of fun. Let's see. Con of Thrones will be very divided. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of. We were just talking about this earlier. People liking or not liking. Where we ended up, and the short of it is, well, here we are, and it is what it is at this point. So we try to enjoy as much of it as we can, and I think most people agree. Okay, I'm going to jump Andre in here. Most people agree that the show did what it could, and it wasn't the best writing in the world, but we got a show. Where there's some fantasies that we haven't gotten a show, maybe we'll get a show, or we may never get a show. So that's something to consider right there. All right, let me get Andrea in here, and we'll get her introduced.
I'm eating every fucking chicken in this room.
Brody had a good comment. He goes, House Targaryen saved the realm from House Targaryen.
Andrea, you can jump in now.
House Targaryen for the win.
And Emily goes, it's sad to hear you guys are getting hate mail. You're all super entitled to your emotions. I cry like a baby over Danny. Emily goes, very, very curious. Everyone's favorite moment from season 8 as a whole. I'm tied between knighting Brienne and Drogon burning the throne.
Okay, Andrea is here, our mistress of whispers, Game of Thrones expert.
Hi.
What's up, girl?
I'm sorry, I'm busy flirting with Trin.
We haven't been on the podcast together for like months.
I miss you so much.
I miss you too. Yay! Sorry, guys. So sorry, fans. We're like getting our girl love out.
Actually,
my girlfriend.
Ashley on YouTube says, I listen to a crap ton of podcasts. You have an excellent show. Don't listen to the haters. You've created a fantastic community, unlike anything I've listened and gotten to participate in. Thank you so much. And if you guys have any suggestions that will help us make this show better for you, behindtheironthrone@gmail.com. Go ahead and email me. And there's people in the chat right now that will tell you I will respond. And you guys know I will. I try to read. We literally did 3 podcasts a week this entire season, except for like the first week because it didn't work out so good. And we actually have this show, which is all about you guys.
And a bonus show on Sunday.
And a bonus show. We have and the bonus after show right after that you and John have been doing.
Yeah, so, John's dope.
So I hope that we do bring something to the table that other podcasters don't. And I'm not saying that we're the best maybe I am saying that, but there's a lot of really awesome podcasts out there. And everyone has their own little style and their own little thing. And I'm just glad that you guys found your way here. And I hope you guys call this place home, because that's what we're trying to make an awesome home here. Let's see. Daniel says, hate mail shocks me considering how many points of view you cover, how much you include us, and how much you put in and care. I'm sorry about the negative energy. And Don't Throw says, you guys incorporate fan interaction, which is a rare amongst other podcasts. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
You guys are totally on point. Like, our fans are amazing. They know we love them. They know that we have a very diverse panel. And not only just the panel, it's like we are giving you different perspectives multiple times throughout the week. So with like Andrea on Tuesday nights, and then with the fandom being focused on Thursday nights, and some of us can't always make it every single night, but Chris does a really good job of herding cats around to create this podcast to give you guys all of this diverse perspective. And I think we are really good at representing just about every type of fan that's out there.
Andre, go ahead.
I agree with you, Trin. I think that for a podcast, I mean, the whole point of being on this podcast specifically is because we're all diehard fans. But the great thing is that we're all diehard in different ways. Some of us are objective, and John specifically is like a Stark through and through. You know what I mean? And then you have Yardley, who's our voice of rationality, or just like, I just don't care one way or the other. I'm not making any theories. I just want to enjoy the show as it is. And to be able to reach out and, interact with all of you guys and get your opinions and, discuss through the things that you're thinking about. That's really what it's all about. That's the whole point of the podcast, I think. And so we're not going to win them all over. And, it is what it is. But I don't think that any of us could be any less grateful for the fans and the community that we have.
All right. We have here, Shayna, I also listen to many, and you guys have always been on my list because it's not average. That's awesome. Paul says, I listen to heaps of paid casts, and this is my favorite. Yay! I live in New Zealand, so your lives are at lunchtime, which works for me. Keep doing your thing, guys. Kia kaha. Ashley Jordan says, you're the council I'd be proud of. Chris for King.
Hey, Chris
That's
for
so
King,
sweet.
2020.
You make me blush. I'm going to blush for Christ's sakes.
That's so sweet.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome.
I love it because
over
Chris is
here-
hand to the king. So it's
Well, we
perfect.
do have a
Great.
pretty cool council. I think
John,
Andrea's
you're Ned's,
definitely.
John
Go.
is Ned Stark. He cannot be the hand.
Mm. No,
But I
he
am
kind
the
of-
hand.
so if Chris
I am the
is
hand.
the king, then John is the hand. You're the whispers. I don't know what
Yeah, I
that means for the
figured-
rest of us.
That means you're
You're
master. of
You're the
ships.
queen consort.
Yeah, because she's high guard. She would be high guard.
So I'd be the
me,
coin?
right? So she would be the master. of
Okay,
coin.
I can do
Okay.
that.
You're good. You're probably better at the money than I am.
You control all the
Don't
food
throw
too.
to 20. Don't throw to 20. You guys incorporate fan interaction, which is rare amongst other podcasts. Danielle says hi to Andre and Trin. Don't throw to 20. You guys all have lives, and yet you give us 3 shows a week.
Yeah, we do have lives. We really, really do have like
Not me.
full life.
Robert
have-
says, "Oh, good, John."
I have to respond. Irina goes, "Why is this a feeling of goodbye? I don't like that. We're not going goodbye. We're going to be doing like another year of podcasting,
Yeah.
Irina. So don't you worry about that."
We're not going anywhere.
Irina knows how to reach me personally, so it's not really a goodbye ever. Anyways.
Ooh,
Sam,
Samantha wants to be Grand Meester.
done. You're done. You're definitely your Grand Maester Glycopedia.
Robert
let's see.
says Master of War for Trin. I don't know who you are, Robert, but apparently you know me because
Are you on Facebook?
I would
Are you on
definitely-
Facebook? Trin?
yeah. I think
all about
Master of War actually totally fits for me.
Let's see. Robert says, I like you guys because you're down to earth. I can sit down and have a beer with any of you. And that's true.
Come to Ice and FireCon and
Hold
you
on,
can do that.
I swear you are. Oh, yeah. John's right. Come to Ice and FireCon next year. We're going again. I'm just saying. We're going to start promoting the shit out of that. I want to see the Thronies there. I would love to walk in with an army of you guys, and maybe we'd all have BTIT t-shirts. We could just take over. It'd be great. Danielle, I swear Yardley balances Julie perfectly. They were great together. And you know what's funny? I was listening to the podcast with my coworker. We were riding in a van together for about an hour and a half, and he was laughing hysterically as Julie's losing her fucking mind. And then Yardley would come on, and if I had Yardley's voice, I would be doing professional work because that man is sexy. I don't care. Anybody says. I'm trying to see here. You guys have always been on my list. Okay, I read that one. We read that one. Okay. All right, so I'm caught up on. Am I caught up on this? Oh, let me see where I'm caught up on. I wouldn't miss anybody because this podcast. This one's about you guys. All right, so in Get Vocal and Andrea, I just wanted to say you have ruined me since Tuesday night. I have nonstop been thinking about what Rhaegar would do if he was in John's shoes. So thanks for bringing that up for me to ponder.
I actually responded and just said that anytime you want to talk about it, you can message me personally on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere, even Twitter, and we can have a full conversation about it. I bet I can come up with a few different occasions where that would have been something that he was faced with, where he was faced with such a decision. Anybody wants to talk to me about, I spout things off randomly all the time. So if there's something specifically that I say and you want to pick apart, just message me. I'm happy to go over it with you. Ask anyone. Also, Chris, I didn't get a chance to add to the show notes, but there was that message from Irina that I thought was really interesting in the Facebook that we should probably at some point when you have a minute.
Oh, the feedback we got or the message?
From Irina, yeah, last week.
Yep. We'll get to that. And don't let me forget that. That's important. And I got an email to read.
Okay.
And it's actually a good email. I was
Good.
going to read a couple of funny ones that I got that were like, eat shit, Chris, your podcast is terrible. Actually, believe it or not, I very rarely get complaints about John, Andrea, and Trin. Most of the complaints I get are about me and my sister.
Just tell the truth. It's Yardley. He's the
Well,
troublemaker.
Yardley's only got one, and it wasn't really hate mail. His was more like, Yardley does not belong on your show because he's too damn sexy, and you are an ugly half-dago bastard.
We can agree with that.
Is,
No,
is
just
basically
kidding.
what he
Yardley
said.
is too sexy for
Or
our show.
He is. That's for
His
sure.
velvety
show-
voice.
I think with the show being gone, I'm gonna miss Yardley the most.
Well, we're going to have him on other podcasts. Don't forget, we have other podcasts, and I'm going to
He
get him on our
usually
movie.
goes off for like he usually only comes for the shows, right? Like
Well, Yardley
recently-
is very busy.
Yeah,
He does
that's
a
what I'm
lot of stuff. He works on Creeping It Real. Creeping It Real is a really fun podcast. They talk about paranormal stuff, pop culture. Him and Christy, and I forget the other girl's name. I'm so sorry. I forgot her name. She's a librarian. I forget her name. I'm so sorry. But big shout out to Creeping It Real. Awesome podcast. Definitely listen to it. And our friends Kente from Indie Radio, who's also at Get Vocal. A lot of awesome podcast relationships. History of Westeros is a good podcast. Lady Gwen's podcast. I think
Can I throw a question to the audience?
pop a question in here, and Robert wants to find out, how do I find you on Facebook, Andrea? And she froze. John,
Oh, we do have a question from
Okay.
Will I Am Bo in YouTube. He asks, do the dragons have more involvement in the books? Anybody who wants to
I'm
answer
gonna
that?
say yes.
Yes and no. It would depend on what you mean by involvement.
Right.
I suppose. As of right now, we're in uncharted territory, so they're getting the most involvement that they've ever had in the last two seasons. But they're not mentioned. I mean, they're mentioned quite frequently. So yeah, I would say that they're a big part of the novels for sure. But it again would just depend on your opinion of involvement. As far as reaching me, you guys can find me at Andrea Farina Richards or hyphen Richards on Facebook. You can find me in the club page, BTIT. I post all the time. You just type my name in and you can tag me in anything. You can email Behind the Iron Throne in Facebook even, message them and I can respond to you there with my information. So there's multiple ways to reach me on Twitter, Andrea_Richards 637.
Awesome. And you know what? A couple of people are asking, what shows, where, and whatnot. Just real quick, Nerd Theater is on. It's just a podcast. We don't have it live yet. I'm actually going to be working on getting it on Get Vocal and doing a live thing. However, whenever we do something else or whenever we're going to start launching something new, we are going to let you guys know. We're going to promote the crap out of it because I'm sure that you guys love a lot of the same stuff we do. I mean, we are like a nerd army. So, and that's what we're going to do now. John, did we miss some stuff in Facebook? I feel like we missed a couple comments there, buddy.
I thought it's Trin. Are you on Facebook now, or do you want me to be on it? Or
On YouTube and Get Vocal. I have a really big problem loading Facebook for some reason. I'm
I'll
sorry,
be on
guys, on
Facebook.
Facebook.
Sorry.
All right, so I'm going to read a couple things. I think, oh my God, is that Travis Gervais? Is he watching live? If you're watching live, Travis, yay, Travis. I haven't seen him in a long time.
So we got let's see. Irina goes, Rhaegar would read books and play his harp and call for a council. We got Irina goes, oh, thanks, Andrea. Irina goes, Julie is the best. Mama Cheryl goes, I freaking love Julie. Dina goes, aside from the Raven in the series launch poster, are there other instances of foreshadowing of Bran as king in the series? Irina goes, Chris is great too, and Andrea, duh.
Thank you. That's a good question.
When
Is
was-
there any more foreshadowing?
Oh, go ahead.
Is there foreshadowing? Is there any other foreshadowing of Bran being the king?
No, that
Not
I can
that
think
I
off the
know.
top of my head. No.
Now, if you're asking me personally, as Chris, the amazingly knower of nothing, I'm going to say I didn't see anything coming. So I'm the last guy you want to ask. And Andre, you're saying no. Trin, did you think of anything maybe that was foreshadowing in the season to Bran sitting? Well, okay, I'm not even making a joke. To Bran being in place of the Iron. Okay, let me put it this way: Wheel
No.
Creeper being the Wheel Creeper king.
No, but I did see something cool on Twitter. Somebody linked a video clip of Gwendolyn Christie and Nikolai Coster-Waldau, like an interview with them from years ago. We're talking 7-ish years ago, where they were talking about who do you think is going to be on the Iron Throne. And this was before Dan and Dave had actually even decided on how their ending was going to be, or before anybody knew about any of that. And I think Nikolai went through and was like, "Oh, I hope, it's one of the main characters like Tyrion or Danny or John or whatever." And Gwendolyn, am I saying her name right? Gwendolyn Christie? Yeah. And Gwendolyn went on and she was like, "I think it's going to be somebody completely off the wall. I think like Bran Stark." And they started questioning her back and forth, and it was this adorable little dialogue that she had. She's like, yeah, I would put my money on somebody completely that you don't think of, and Stark. And I pretty sure either on not Snapchat, Instagram or Twitter or something, she posted that. I'm super crazy because I follow all these guys on all the different platforms of social media, so I'm constantly looking at it. But she like either retweeted it or reposted it or something on the old interview, and she got it right. And I thought, oh my god, that's insane. That even way back then, accidentally, somebody from the cast had gotten it right. Because when you think about, I want to do this myself. I want to go back and start rewatching it, knowing the end now. And I was just going to do this with like maybe season 7 or season 8 only. But I think it would be very interesting to go back to the very beginning, start watching it all over again, which I've done multiple times. But now I know the end. And I think I would think about things differently or have a different perspective. Obviously, going back, and you'd see a lot more that you didn't see before, because we've done that on this podcast, rewatched, and we always see things that we didn't see before that make more sense now. And so I encourage all the people who are super fans to go back and rewatch, because I feel like we're going to do it. We're probably going to podcast about it too.
Yes, you're exactly right. Definitely want to go back and binge watch the entire thing and see all the foreshadowing that I missed, and recry and be shocked and amazed. Definitely looking forward to that. I love binge watching. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Although I have limited time as it is. Like I literally go back, and please don't judge me too harshly. I like True Blood, and I love the books better, but I love the series.
Oh yeah, totally guilty pleasure. Don't care.
Who doesn't love True Blood?
Yeah.
I mean,
except for the end where she chose to kill Bill. That was the worst part for me. But whatever.
Terrible. Spoiler alert. If anyone hasn't watched
If
it,
you
I don't
haven't
know.
watched True Blood at this point and you didn't
Come
know
on, you gotta watch it.
Okay.
But I watch it every summer. I don't know why, because I guess it's like takes place down south, so it's like the heat thing. I don't know. So every summer I binge watch it, which I don't know. I'm crazy. I love it.
I love Eric Northman.
John, yeah, me too. John, you want to say something?
Facebook. So we have Facebook here. Claudia goes, oh, first of all, Robert, he goes, never mind, that's not worth it. He wants to know who has the property rights for Wheel of Time. Claudia goes, question, does Bran need the Weirwood trees to look in the past? They're only in Winterfell. He moves to King's Landing, so he gave up those abilities. Am I wrong? I answered that on the chat. I said no.
Bran moved up, John. Bran moved up to Weirwood Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
The crows are his Wi-Fi connection, I think.
Irina goes, ugh, the Bran thing was poorly executed. There could be so many ways to put it together better. It was too out of nowhere and nonsensical. Irina replying to Claudia, D&D kind of forgot about the Weirwood net. Steven Bags goes, D&D probably got that idea from Gwendolyn. Emily replying to Claudia goes, there's a tree in King's Landing, or was. Sansa was there to pray during the early seasons. At least I'm pretty sure it was a Weirwood, but I think he can warg without. I don't know about green seeing. Deanna goes, love books and series, True Blood. And Ken goes, thank the maker. The dream team is in session. Minus Yardley, or of course, Mr. Yardley.
So when you're talking about the Weirwood trees, if everybody remembers back to, oh God, now I'm sort of drawing a blank. But as far as the show goes, if we're talking show specifically only, Bran had a vision of the Tower of Joy, and there were no weirwoods around. We saw the outside, we saw the inside. We didn't get like a full 360 of it, but it was the landscape was very desert because we know it was down south. There was no way a weirwood was going to be there. So Bran was able to see visions without a weirwood tree in the show. So, like Chris said, it was very weirwood Wi-Fi.
Yeah, because go back to season 7 finale when Sam walks into the room with Bran and he's like telling him about John, and then he goes right into the past. So he doesn't need the weirwood.
Andre, you go first.
Actually, confirmed that in, I believe, Dance of Dragons, it says eventually you'll be able to use the trees to see through time, to see over time and space, and eventually you won't need the trees at all. You'll be able to use the eyes of the ravens. So the roots just tie the memory of the land to the trees, but the eyes, the memories, are also transferred through the eyes of the ravens. Anywhere the birds can fly, anywhere where nature exists, Bran can see. He can see across the narrow sea, past the Jade Gates. He can see to the old Empire of the Dawn. I mean, he literally had this vision in his very first flight. So he's not restricted to the weirwood trees. As he grows stronger, the less and less important the weirwood tree will become, because he'll be able to use the connection that the ravens have with the weirwood trees as well in order to see as far as he needs to go.
So the weirwood trees are basically like the hooked on phonics for green seeing. It's like they just get you through the first, few stages until you get to the more advanced levels without them.
Okay, I'm going to read a couple of comments here in the YouTube, and we still didn't answer that other question, John. Our favorite episode of the entire season so far, right, or the entire show, which I want to go back to in a second. Let's see here. Trin, you already responded to Paul, so I'm going to skip past that. Let's see. Biggie says season 1 poster with Ned Stark sitting on the Iron Throne, and there is a raven next to him. Yep,
That's all over social media.
All over the place.
Yep.
And of course, I missed that as well.
Me too.
Patrice says, oh God, this guy's name, Jojen Reed. You guys know.
Your original creepy.
He's the OG creeper. He is the dream creeper. Ladies and gentlemen, I actually wrote a song about that. I should find it and sing it again. Jojen Reed told him in season 3, episode 2, titled Dark Wings, Dark Words, when he told Bran, you are all that matters. You. Fucking dream creeper. They're creeping together, and you don't even realize it.
And Jojen was a green seer as well. Not so much a warg in the show that we've seen. So he may have seen some of the future where Bran became the king too.
Yeah, Shayna, he leveled up his skill, and I do miss Bubba from the True Blood books. I wish they would have put that in the show. Yeah, so we had Dream Creeper, we had the original OG Dream Creeper promoting Bran to be a Dream Creeper, and there's all this Dream Creeper shenanigans going on, and he ends up being the king. And I don't know if you guys listened to the other podcasts we did or not, but I literally shot stuff out of my nose and almost hit my TV when that happened. I was like, you are fucking with me, right? Like, out of all the people Tyrion could have said, all the people, he looks and says, Bran the Broken. And I should have known, because why else would they wheel him down to King's Landing from the north?
Did you guys already talk about like the theory of Bran being like the ultimate AI and the ultimate evil?
Not yet,
okay.
But let's get to that. I'm going to answer the question we had earlier. My favorite episode of the entire Game of Thrones season, and this is really hard because I really like Hardhome. I'm going to say it was The Long Night. I loved that episode. I loved it and I hated it. I loved it. I thought it was a really awesome episode. Like the dead come in.
Did you even see it? Because it was really just dark.
Well, what I did was, here's what I did. I have a big 12-inch iPad, and I cranked up the brightness when I watched it. Otherwise, if you're watching it regularly, it's almost like you're looking through like 4 pairs of sunglasses. So I was able to see more. But that's probably my favorite episode. Ask me again in a week or after I rewatch the entire season or the entire show, and I might change my thought. What was yours, Trent? Do you remember what yours? Do you have a pick for that?
I remember we did a podcast not too long ago. I want to say like within the last 6 months, where we went through each season and we picked some of our favorite episodes from each one. So I know that we've kind of gone through all of them over again, but just for season 8, I could absolutely without a doubt say that for season 8, my favorite would have been episode 2, the King of, or sorry, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, just because that is the like stripped down, raw Game of Thrones relationships, politics, awesome conversation that was all the nuances and stuff that I came to love about the show.
Now, and Get Vocal, Justin says my favorite episode and least favorite episode is episode 8 or season 8, episode 3 because of the con. Yeah, and that's part of probably why I like it.
Yeah, that was intense.
Let's see. Don't throw to 20. We all should have known the Starks would get happy endings. They milked the shit out of that slogan. The North remembers. That was sides on every media.
Yeah.
It was said on every media, I think you meant to say. Let's see over here.
I got some Facebook stuff here.
I'm going to let you do Facebook in just a moment. On YouTube Ashley says, don't you feel like anything you might see on a rewatch would be a coincidence since they didn't know how it was ending? And Biggie says Ned Stark raised 3 kings, 1 queen, 1 world-class assassin, 1 ironborn prince, and 1 knucklehead who couldn't zig and zag. You get a gold star, my friend.
So
I saw that.
I
meme.
started to
All he had to do was zag.
Yeah, I started to reply to Ashley, but since you read it quicker than I could reply, type in. What I wanted to respond to Ashley about, she said, "Don't you feel like anything you might see on a rewatch might be coincidental since they didn't know how it was ending?" I recently read an interview on D&D where they said that was it 2013. By 2013, they knew how they were going to write the ending. So they filmed the pilot and released the first season in 2011. And by the time they got to 2013, I think they were they were filming season 4. And at that time, they were coming up to the same level as where George had written. And they knew they had to come up with something else because of their schedule and their pressure from HBO executives. And that's when they decided, okay, we have to figure out how we're going to end this because George hasn't given us the source material. So they had to come up with their ending. And it's been basically that long since they knew what the ending was going to be. So if you think about season 5 and beyond, they had that ending in mind. So when you go back for a rewatch, keep that in mind that 5, 6, 7, and then obviously all of 8, they knew how they wanted to end it.
John?
So Facebook here, we got Emily goes, oh, okay, so in the books, Bran would need to be going from tree to tree, not just touching a tree. Dina goes, in the books, aren't most of the weirwoods north of the wall gone? Emily goes, ooh, the roots thing makes so much more sense now. Thank you, Andrea. Laugh out loud. Irina goes, mine was Winds of Winter, which passed the books by a lot, and I thought it was brilliant without George R. Martin. I said it. Robert goes, Bran equals Skynet. John goes, Stark must always remain in Winterfell unless we're crowning Bran as king. Irina goes, you just liked it because you watched in a room with 200 people, Chris. She's referring to your episode, season 3. Emily goes, I love The Long Night, but the first time watching it will always be the best time. So shocking and wonderful. Irina goes, oh, of the season, my favorite was Night of the Seven Kingdoms for sure. And the finale, Emily goes, Night of the Seven Kingdoms was my favorite season 8 episode. I will cry every time Brienne gets knighted. And Irina goes, Jenny's song got me.
Jenny's song.
Yep.
Oh, man. That should be its own podcast, honestly. Like with Andrea breaking down Jenny's song and like there's so much fire and blood in that. So much. Andrea, are you muted? I don't hear you. Okay.
I'm not saying
There's
anything.
so much fire and blood in that. Oh.
I'm like obsessed with it. I listen to it constantly because there's just so many things. There's so much symbology in the song in general. And for example, Sansa is a perfect example of Jenny in the situation where Sansa refuses to leave Winterfell at this point. It's where all her ghosts are. It's where she feels safe. It's where she wants to be and die. And that's all. She would stay and die in Winterfell if she was given the opportunity to leave. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's such a good song, and I wasn't expecting it, and I was completely enthralled with it the very first time I heard it, and obviously gratifying to know that I was on the right path. Understanding the lyrics was great for me. But yeah, I love Jenny's song, and I could totally do a whole podcast about it. It's so good. I have to pause myself.
Okay, in the meantime, I have an email we're going to read. We're going to read some of the feedback we got. Well, I'm going to read a good email. I'm not going to read any of the bad stuff. Hey, Chris. Listening to your podcast you did last night, well, in this case, it was 2 days ago, with Andrea, and the question came up, who is rolling in the grave the most? My answer would be former King Robert. Robert Baratheon, there's a war coming. Ned, I don't know when. I don't know who will be fighting, but it's coming. He warned Ned what would happen if Dany came over with a Dothraki horde, and they did not disappoint. Keep doing what you are doing. Love the podcast. And that's from Wolsium. I'm going to answer that question. Who do I think is rolling in their grave the most? I don't remember if we answered that, Andrea, on the podcast, but I'm going to say
Andrea said Ned because I just listened to you guys your podcast
Yeah.
today. I was trying to catch up.
I think I agree. I think I agree. It's going to be Ned. Or I like what Don't Throw says. Rhaegar, for
Yeah.
sure, or Barristan Selmy.
Yeah.
Leonard
Oh,
Tyrell.
Barristan Selmy is a good
And
one because he was
Tywin.
like, I watched you.
Ooh.
No, he was like, Barristan was like, I watched you to make sure you didn't have your father's madness. And you're your sisters. You're your brother's sister. Oh my God, Barristan would be rolling over right now. That's a good one. But also, I want to agree that Robert Baratheon is a really good choice. Like a really, really good choice. But also, it has nothing to do with the fact that he was right about Dany. It has everything to do with the fact that he was wrong about Ned.
Yes. Yes.
Everyone watching live, please give us who you think is rolling around in the grave. And don't forget, Don't Throw to 20 wants to know what John thinks. Who's your say?
Olenna Tyrell, for the sole fact that Bronn is now Lord of Highgarden and Warden, whatever is it? Warden the South, whatever the Warden
He's
is.
got Highgarden, and he's the Paramount of the Reach or some bullshit like that, and the Master of Coin, which Olenna wouldn't care about. But yeah, I've said that on Monday's podcast, and I was like, oh God, Olenna would be pissed off about that sellsword nonsense. And
also Tywin Lannister. Sorry.
Yeah, you guys talked about Tywin Lannister as well, just because of how the Jaime, Cersei, Tyrion thing. I don't know that he would be all that upset because he was all about family, and like he saw his family really trying to come together to be some sort of like they protected each other, even if when they were at odds with each other. Because we saw both Jaime and Tyrion go to bat and try to save Cersei and stop her from any stupid decisions, even though she contracted Bronn to kill them. And then not only after that, like Cersei has her moments of regret on what she was doing because she loved her children and she was pregnant and she loved Jaime. And so even though there was that whole incest thing, I think he would have been proud that his kids were trying to preserve the dynasty that he was all about.
I think Tywin would have been kind of pissed though when he found out that Jaime and Cersei were, making flippity flop.
Oh, he knew that. She came out and said that in the show.
Yeah, and he
But
willfully
did he believe her in the show?
I think that he knew that she wasn't lying, but I think that he willfully chose to assume that it was a lie and that they were just fucking with him because his own vanity wouldn't allow it. Tywin wasn't the type that could suffer anybody, ridiculing him or laughing at him or anything like that. So the idea of accepting something like that was just beyond his comprehension. I think that if anything, Tyrion, not Tyrion, Tywin would be rolling over his grave at the fact that Tyrion is his sole surviving heir. That'd be the one thing above everything. Everyone knew that Tyrion was going to be the doom of their house. I mean, technically he was. He brought Dany to Westeros. He encouraged her to seek the Iron Throne. I mean, technically he was the doom of their house. And now he's his only sole surviving heir. He is the one person who's going to carry on the Lannister name. And so I think that's really sick karma, and it's great for fucking Tywin. And I can totally see Tywin rolling over that.
I got one right here on Facebook. This one's a good one. Irina goes Tywin for sure. Irina goes Jorah Mormont is rolling his grave because he never wanted Dany to do all that. He was like, Dany just burned the whole city. Are you crazy? I think Jorah's like the most. And then she also goes, Tywin knew he was in denial.
I feel like Jorah, he knew Dany. He saw Dany struggle back and forth, and he saw that she could be tempered, but she needed people she trusted and loved around her to be tempered. And without that, without him, without Missandei, without those key people in her life, she was gonna be a fucking dragon. But Don't Throw said in the Get Vocal chat, going back to Tywin, Tywin seeing Bran as king, he would have to be pissed because Tywin was the hand of the Mad King, and he's seen, Robert Baratheon on the throne and all that. To see Bran fucking Stark, I think would really piss off Tywin for sure.
I have one that's the opposite, who is actually in the grave going, yeah. That would be Aerys Targaryen. Mad King Aerys, like, burn, baby, burn. You know what I mean? Like, he was happier than a pig in shit.
Like, I'm proud. That's my daughter right there.
Died.
Happen. Well, before that, I guess. Yeah.
Can I?
You have a comment? Let me read a comment. Go
ahead. Read your comment because I got a question for everyone.
Okay, this one is Patrice says, was Jon? This is a question too. Was Jon's killing of Dany her third and final betrayal, being that I don't think she ever suspected Jon ever wanted her dead, especially since they were the only two remaining Targaryens? Anyone want to take a crack at that, Andrea?
Actually, I think this was a good time to read Irina's response to Dany's whole entire situation. I don't think it was ever a question of whether Jon wanted Dany dead or not, though. I don't think that he wanted that. I think it was completely one of the most hardest decisions he had to make, but it was a right decision ultimately. So I think that, and assuming that he wanted Dany dead would imply that he had some sort of ambition, and he didn't have any ambition. He wanted to love Dany, and he did love her until her very last breath. And I think that the email that we got from Irina really explains the fact that he did what he had to do to distract her in the end, because he knew that if he wasn't able to pull her out of, the moment that she was in, that it could have just all fallen to pieces around them all. We've read a couple of really great articles over the last couple of days in regards to Jon being Azor Ahai and fulfilling the requirements, how he tried to forge an alliance 3 times and it broke and whatever, and he fulfilled the promise. And with Drogon destroying the throne, he saw it as the ultimate threat, but we covered that on Tuesday. I said that I thought that Drogon saw the throne as the ultimate threat, and that's why he didn't go after Jon. It wasn't Jon who killed her, it was the throne that ultimately killed her in the end. It drove her to her madness. But I've read a lot of really great articles over the last couple of days, and the one thing that Irina said to me that I read was that Dany had regressed almost to a childlike state at the point
I'm
where...
going to read that in just a second.
Yeah.
Also, Ashley says, she told Tyrion Jon betrayed her when he told Sansa. My thought was that was the third betrayal. Biggie says, Jorah's ashes are rolling at Winterfell's front yard because there's no body debrief. Now, John, did you want to do your question now, or do you want to wait till after I read the email?
I'll do it now since Andrea brought it up. So I posted an article about Jon unknowingly being Azor Ahai. I don't know if you read that article, Trin. I posted on the Facebook.
She's not here. She had to go to the bathroom.
No, Andrea said.
Oh.
I posted about, and I just want to get the audience opinion. Do you think you'd have to look at the article, but essentially the guy on Reddit goes, so he goes, so if you perceive the Azor Ahai prophecy, the first time Azor Ahai is making the sword in the water, it doesn't work. So that relates to the night battle of the Night King. And then the second time she forges a sword, he plunges it into the lion's heart. So if you relate that to Cersei being defeated, and then the third time is Jon stabbing Danny, which ending the evil. So I just want to get everyone's opinion. Do you believe that he fulfilled the Azor Ahai prophecy?
All right, that's a good question. So if anyone believes that Jon Snow fulfilled the Azor Ahai prophecy, please put it in your whatever chat you're in. I'm going to say hell no. I think that that's a stretch.
Well,
But
look at it like this
know
too,
what the
Chris.
audience says, the community.
Look at it like this. Danny was both Nissa and the Great Evil all in one. So him killing, now there is no Lightbringer sword, but I could see
Arya is Lightbringer. I've already proven
Yes.
that.
I believe Andrea's
Okay.
Arya is Lightbringer.
But you could see that Danny being both Nissa and the Great Evil. So killing Nissa ended the evil at the original time. In this time, killing Danny ended she was evil, and so you can see you can make that comparison.
So there's a play on words here. At some point, the great darkness will come and lay over the land, and in that hour, a hero will be reborn amidst the flames. He will basically slay the darkness and ensure an everlasting summer or whatever, or dawn or spring. So the thing about it is that there's a point, and I guess if you want to really, you really want to break it down, the very first time he tried to forge his pact, right, which is his forging of a sword, would be between the Free Folk and the Northmen, or the Free Folk and the Night's Watch, and that pact broke, right? That's a pact of ice. And then you have the next one with the Lion, which was the pact that he tried to forge with Cersei and Daenerys and the North and everybody to fight the White Walkers. That pact broke. That was the second time. So the third time he tried to forge it, it was with Danny, except for he had to take Danny's life. I think that's a stretch. Of course, it's possible. Who knows? Because everything is a metaphor. And if Danny would have been continued to allow to continue in her state, it could have brought on a darkness. I think that it's really foolish of us to all assume that when they talk about the darkness, that they're automatically talking about the White Walkers, because the enemy is just a hero for the other side. Right? So we just automatically assumed that this great darkness that needed to be slayed was the Night King, but the Night King was just trying to do what he thought was ultimately going to be the right thing in the end, which is just like Danny, kind of, I suppose. But which one would have been the greater evil? Well, neither of them are ideal, but it's quite possible it happened this way. Who fucking knows? It's just, that's the great thing about George, is it's all open to interpretation, and prophecy isn't guaranteed to come true. It's just one of those things where you can make it work if you want to, but it doesn't mean that's actually what's happening.
I'm going to read this email in just a second. I promise you, Irina. I just want to say I agree with Big E that there is no Azor Ahai prophet. Like it's not in the show like it will be in the books, if that makes any sense. I think that all that shit got thrown right out the window for the show. And we're not going to revisit that. I just don't think it's in the show. I think that it's mentioned in the show because it's part of the story of A Song of Ice and Fire. But it's not meant to be in the HBO series. Now, the other thing I have to say about that is, and then we're going to read, Irene, I promise I'm going to read it. So my whole take on, because I've been wondering the last couple of days about lore, about the many-faced god, about the old gods, the new gods, yada yada yada, and George has said that prophecy is like a fickle thing, or a fickle whatever, and I think that
treacherous woman,
like a treacherous woman. The way I look at it is this: in our own history of humanity, of real life humanity, right? We have the Greek gods, we have all these different gods, we have all these different religions and all these different things, and everyone thinks they're right. And I think that when George R. R. Martin writes some of the stuff in the books, that it's the same kind of thing. I think most reasonable people can agree that there was no Zeus, there is no Zeus, there is no Greek god. It's all make believe. And I think that a lot of that happens in the show as well. It's like, hey, here's Azor Ahai, and maybe there was a real story behind it, but it got changed into some kind of fantasy over the years. I just don't think that everything that he writes has to actually be true. Like Maybe there is no real Lord of Light. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, and it's actually there's one many-faced God, the God of the Seven or whatever. You know what I mean? Like maybe, yeah. There's all, like Andrea said, there's all this interpretation. So until George writes that the Lord of Light appeared, or he writes something to confirm it, I'm skeptical on some of these things. You know what I mean?
Well, I
And
think
the Lord of Light might have been real. Was it the Lord of Light's magic, or was it Melisandre's magic? Like, I don't know. I don't know what to think. And that kind of makes it fun for me to feel like, hey, was it real? Like, we never got, I don't know, there was never like a clear-cut answer, like, hey, this is because of the Lord of Light, period. And it's definitive proof that you cannot argue against. Uh, let's see. I never got a good read on why. Okay, so we'll get into that comment in a second, Robert. So that's just my take on that. Let me read here. Irina's, she contacted us and took some time to really write us here. Let's see. Irina says, it was a great live show tonight. Well, that was on Tuesday. I had something I wanted to touch on about Danny, but couldn't type it all. What Danny always wanted was home. The house with the red door. Just think about the books, guys. The safety of her childhood. When I read what Amelia said about the scene, it clicked for me. She regressed to a childlike state. She thinks that the equivalent of that feeling is the Iron Throne, and she just got it. She found her home and the arms to keep her warm, John. And as soon as she took that turn into madness, she was so far gone that she even felt as giddy as a child again, like a child who can throw a destructive tantrum one moment and act completely happy and cheerful the next, without understanding. It's not just about euphoria. Euphoria. Watch her face. She is a kid again who can't count to 20, standing in a freaking bleak war zone that to her feels so much like the house with the door that she can't even see what's truly around her. It's not that she lost her mind. She has almost regressed to a childlike innocence, feeling so safe and oblivious that she is hardly affected by anything anyone is saying. Have you seen The Walking Dead when Carol has to shoot Lizzie? Lizzie was too far gone, but she still had the innocence of a child, and Carol had to distract her with the flowers and shoot her, and she felt like shit for it, just like John felt. Also, just like Golem, whose single-minded purpose was the ring. So much so that when he got it, it felt like the most glorious moment of his life. It made him truly happy, even giddy, even as he was dying. I think that's what the Iron Throne always meant to her. Home, and the life half remembered that she had before living as a runaway. And as soon as she glimpsed it, there was no going back. I don't think there was anything cruel about what John did. I think he played into her reality and let her down easy. He let her have that moment of purity when she felt secure enough to be totally trustful in her illusion. Let's see here. I think she went farther than that in her mind, fantasizing about a savior and going further. But I think at this exact moment, she is feeling that safety and security, like nothing can hurt her. She is home. Good, Andre.
I literally think this is canon. I'm not even kidding you. When I think about it, and you look at you can, if you take the words in this email and you watch the scene in front of you, you can literally see exactly what Irene is talking about. Her eyes brighten the minute that she sees the throne, and she gets this like almost excited look on her face. And then she turns around to John, and she sees John coming in from the doorway, and she's like, "We got it," you know. And it occurs to me at that point, and she says it 1,000 times, I'm like a kid again. I can't count to 20. She is. She's all the way back in her childhood. And so there's this theme, right? This mantra that Danny is known for. Trin, do you know what it is? If I look back, I am lost.
Yeah, from the books, for sure.
Danny got lost in the past. She was so caught off guard and everything that was happening around her. Everything was before she came to Westeros. The only time she felt safe and secure was with the house in the red door and the lemon tree and Sir Wellham Dairy. And then after that, after Viserys died, after she started taking control, she knew her path to safety was the Iron Throne. getting rid of Robert Baratheon, slaying her enemies, making sure that if she had the Iron Throne, that no one could hurt her, no one could harm her ever again. She'd be safe, and there would be no one coming after her. She wouldn't have to run and hide and, be a beggar queen, all of these things. And then she got to Westeros, and then everything, her whole entire life went from like a steady, area to like completely off kilter. She lost 2 of her fucking children, had more than half of her army. The person that she thought was her lover actually turned out to be the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Nothing that she has thought that she had control of is in control of anymore. So what did she do? She looked back on her history, on her time, and she said to Jon, people used to look at me like they used to look at you. She got lost thinking about where she was, and it sent her forward into a place where she was stuck in the past. And so she threw a childlike tantrum to get what she wanted, and she burnt down the city, and she didn't even see what she was doing because it didn't matter, because she finally got her end goal. She finally had safety in sight, and Jon was the warmth in her arms. And I'm literally thinking about all of these words that Irina says, and it makes so much sense. It's not madness, and I'm telling everyone this. It's not madness, not when you are deciding. When you're conscientiously making a decision, yes. It's not madness. It's cruelty. It's a tantrum. It is entitlement. It is entitlement. And this is literally entitlement at its worst. And this is, in my opinion, this is canon. This is exactly what happened.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, that was very well written.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate here for a second.
Here we go.
I think that you're absolutely on point with that, Andrea, as far as it wasn't madness. These were all what's the word I'm looking for?
Premeditated.
Thank you. That's exactly the word I'm looking for. These were all premeditated. Her actions were completely premeditated because she had this pattern. She had this pattern of wanting to go just burn it down and let me get what I need to get. Let me conquer. She had the spirit of Aegon, the conquering spirit of, I'm going to go get what I want, and I'm going to do it through fire and blood because that's what we do. We're dragons. And she didn't get the opportunity to do that over and over again because of the different people she had surrounded herself with were like, oh, try this, try this, especially Tyrion. Let's not be irrational. Let's do this specific tactical way. And it was no surprise. It should have been no surprise to anybody that when she got the opportunity to burn it down, she was going to fucking burn it down. And even though I don't like the way that it turned out, not for the reasons that Dany was turned into a villain, I expected that, but mostly because of the execution of, or the presentation of how it happened cinematically. You just can't deny, if you're any fan at all, you can't deny that this was what she was about to be. I still, even though she killed 500,000 people or more, probably somewhere in between the 500,000 to 1 million people, because they say King's Landing's populated to 1 million. I still don't think Dany was out of line or I think that it's all relative to, like, her crimes were relative to what perspective you take, honestly. And I can completely sympathize and empathize with her perspective and who she is and what she was trying to accomplish. And I don't see her as the villain. I really don't.
I think she just needed a Snickers bar.
Right?
She was hungry.
Yeah.
She was aggravated.
No, I think there's a lot of other people that should share the blame of all of that with her.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I think that you can't just... Yeah.
Yes. They held her hand for how many years and
exactly.
told her that everything she did was okay. How was she supposed to rationalize
what you
her actions in this situation?
Yeah. What you just were talking about, Andrea, about her destiny, she fucking absolutely believed that was her destiny because she had complete support. And as a fan, every fan out there who, unless you didn't like Dany from the beginning, like Yardley, if you were rooting for Dany at any point in the last 7 seasons before season 8,
you enabled her.
Yeah, you enabled her. You were part of the problem.
You have to take responsibility.
Yeah, but we are too. And we were all like, yeah, Dany, get it. And up until the point to where she burned King's Landing, and I said this on Monday, everybody was rooting for her because we were like, yeah, get Cersei, because you think in that moment of the bells she's gonna go after Cersei, and she doesn't, and that's where everybody's like, oh well, now she's a villain. What? No,
I know.
no. Yeah, you don't get to do that because
Right.
everybody
You don't get
here
to
made
decide.
mistakes. Yeah, everybody
You
here
don't
made
get to
mistakes. Even
You don't get
our
to decide she's your queen when
Right,
she's doing
yeah.
the right thing, and then not your queen when she's not doing
Even-
something that makes you look
even
good.
the all honorable, perfect, precious
Here we
Ned
go.
Stark made some mistakes
He did,
and
honestly.
disgraced his own honor, and right before he lost his head. And
Imagine if he would have just done the right thing and dethroned Robert Baratheon in the beginning and placed Jon Snow on the Iron Throne, whether it was what he wanted or not, and then brought Viserys and Daenerys back from Essos and tried to imagine her growing up in a loving environment for once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, Ned, okay, I understand you did what you did, but you're an idiot because you could have done the right thing from the beginning and just ended the whole entire thing.
And the blood of all the citizens of Westeros from the War of the Five Kings and beyond is on Ned's hands.
Now, John,
Honestly.
before you go ape shit, because everyone knows that you love the Starks. Now,
Tell us about how much you love the Starks, John.
I also want to address some hate mail I got for that. I think the guy's name was Bob or Brian or some shit, saying that we pick on you way too much because you're a Stark lover. And I'm going to go and say this, John, we all love you, and I love you, buddy. However, you are not objective when it comes to the Starks. Number one, and number two, if you guys that sent me the mail about John would talk to him on a regular basis, you would be fucking nuts too. Because it's always Starks I love. Starks I love.
No, it's
I love the Starks. It's always.
And
besides, we have fun, don't we, John? It's all for fun, right? Bud?
If people knew that John has like really thick skin and we give him just as much love as we give him hate, then they wouldn't be so like, first of all, anybody got brothers and sisters and you have people pick on your little brothers and sisters or older, maybe, you're the first person to go to bat for those people, like the brothers and sisters. You're like, don't you fucking talk about my brother that way or my sister that way, or whatever. Like, however, when you go home, you're beating their ass because they're your brother and sister. That's how we feel about John. If you talk shit about John, every one of the motherfuckers on this podcast will go like,
we'll go in.
Ooh. I will cut you.
John reminds me of my son. And I love my son. He's 7 years old. I love him more than
John
anything
is
else.
7 too.
And he'll be like, Dad, I want this. When can I have it? Can I have it right now? Can I have it tomorrow? Can I have it in 10 minutes? Can I have it in 5 minutes? And he'll do that until you literally cave or until you say, no, forget it. That's John when it comes to the Starks. So you have to understand, when we're talking to John in private, it's, I love the Starks. 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 Because somebody actually sent me a message saying, well, why don't you guys, get on Trin and Julie for loving Danny? Well, because they don't throw it in our face as much.
They're objective to Danny. Well, yeah, Trin is at least.
Come on.
I still love Danny.
I'm objective. I love Danny too. Also, what people don't really hear a lot is that John and I have this like almost rivalry over Jon Snow. I love him about as much as John does.
Yeah.
So there's this like underlying relationship between John and I where we're fighting over the love of my life. So there's that. There's that, and also I am the queen in the north, and John doesn't seem to understand that he needs to cede it.
No. King in the North still.
No.
Okay. King in the North. We're not, see again.
Wait, John, you've got to be king in the.
You're king beyond the wall now, bro.
There you go.
You're King Dingling, Lord of the Wicker People. You're Lord Duckdarian. Quack, quack.
Sansa's my queen.
Digging
I'm
your
king
monikers.
You love
That's
it.
fine.
Now,
I'll be queen bee on the wall. It's okay.
Oh, I need to
I'd much
respond.
rather be stolen by a man,
John,
anyways.
you need to respond and tell me what we have in Facebook also.
So I'll do Facebook first before I respond to you guys. Head. Okay, so Irina goes, no way in hell, the prophecy went out the window. Andrea Triggs goes, hey guys, I'm still at work, but want to sneak in and say hello.
Hey girl.
BTIT pals. Irina goes, Arya's Lightbringer at best. John goes, I'm going to write an article about how Sir Pounce could have been Azor Ahai, laugh out loud. Naomi, who's not my favorite, goes, how dare you? Greek mythology is so factful history.
I agree.
I'm Greek, so I naturally reply to that.
I'm
And
offended
then
about Zeus.
and Naomi's like, she's Greek too, so that's it. We're
Hate
good.
mail,
Yeah,
guys. Just
I'm offended.
just fucking offended.
I'm offended by your opinion about Zeus.
Then
I'm not
Irina
gonna
goes, thanks, Chris. You gave me chills. And then Irina goes, I'm Greek or Romanian. So Irina, you're instantly my thing.
lie.
I gave you chills when I read your article. Or
Naomi goes, Irene's email made me teary on point. And then Irina goes, yep. Irina goes, yet the execution of her own personal self-destruction by turning psychopath was so poor. Naomi goes, yes, it's not all on Danny. Naomi goes, team Danny. And then we got here, Robert goes, Tyrion's talked to John. We cheered her on and she became more convinced she was right. Irina goes, I agree. No one did her justice at all except John. I think he did what he could to ever die with dignity. And Irina goes, oh, my daughter is 6 and we just got back from Disney World. She is a terror. Irina goes, Leffel, you are very eloquent.
Eloquent.
It was very eloquent.
I don't know. That's what she says.
Okay. That's awesome. Let's see. Anything in YouTube? Is anyone watching YouTube?
I'm watching YouTube, and there's some people. I don't remember what the last thing that was that we.
We were just talking about Danny.
No, I know what we were
Yeah,
talking about, but like I don't know what the last thing that was read was.
Or I read last was I was going to read. We were talking about the Lord of Light, and Ashley said the Lord of Light was real.
Oh, okay. So back when we were talking about John and Danny, Robert said, I never got a good read on why John started to back off from Danny romantically. Is it because she was his aunt or because he started seeing the dark side? That's actually a good point, because that's a point I say over and over again was I didn't buy their whole love relationship in the first place because they didn't really expound on it or give them enough time for that romantic relationship. So seeing him reel back in was not as moving for me personally. And I know that a lot of fans share this because they've told me. So we didn't get a read on that. We didn't get any explanation on. There was nothing that was like, oh, that's obvious. We didn't get that.
I never, ever, not once felt like it was because she was his aunt. Not once.
Right. But they don't tell us.
Every single time he pulled back from her, it was because it felt like she was trying to impose something upon him. It was a moment where she was, experiencing or showing a point of not being quite there. You know what I mean?
Didn't it seem kind of clunky because he didn't start pulling back until after he found out, like immediately after he found out that he was related to her? Then you really, like, the producers almost forced us into this narrative.
So there's this
love, though. Like everyone's talking about this love between them. I didn't feel it.
So there's this moment, right, in the crypts where Danny comes up to John and she's approaching him and he's down there and he's looking at Lyanna's statue. And Danny stops, right? She knows that something's wrong with John. He's obviously upset, so she stops. And she motions to John if she can approach him. And he gives her permission. And then she wraps her arm around him. He's not pushing back from her at this point. He's known longer than her at this point that she's his aunt. But when she, gestures that she wants to be close to him, he accepts her. He brings her in. Now, if he wasn't comfortable with that, he could have said, there's something I need to tell you. But he didn't. He let her come back in. Then she came to him in his chambers and she kissed him. And he accepted her again. But at this moment, she's also trying to say, don't tell anybody who you are. Lie to your family. I'm your family. I'm your queen. I don't want anybody to know. I wish that you wouldn't have told me. I wish that things hadn't changed. And John's over here and he's like, I just kissed you. I just told you that I don't want things to change. I just told you that I love you. Or I'm trying to show you that I love you at least. And you're the one who's changing. So in that point, why wouldn't John back up from her? And then again, in that chamber on Dragonstone again, she's like, am I just your queen? You know what I mean? And she's not going to John because she desires him in this moment. She's going to John to prove a point. And John's not there to be her he's not there to be her plaything. He's not there to be her Band-Aid. You know what I mean? He's there to explain to her that he loves her and he's concerned about her and he wants to be there for her. But she's making it into a power play. Am I just your queen? You know what I mean? She's using him to try to mask all the hurt. Him laying with her isn't going to get rid of all that hurt that she's feeling. And John understands that in that moment. I don't think that any person who's hurting like that is going to honestly be thinking about whether her lover actually loves her or not. She's just trying to numb her pain. And in that case, why wouldn't John back up from that too?
Now, I would have been like, she would have been like, am I just your queen? I'd be like, no. Matter of fact, in my backpack, in my satchel over here, I have a cat of nine tails,
Of course you do.
a leather mask, a ball gag, and our safe word is going to be
Dracarys.
go. Or the, no, because then Drogon will come in and be like, "Whoa," because he's voice activated. That motherfucker he's the latest in Westerostian technology. He is voice activated.
Wear her ass
really
out.
quick. Don't Throw to 20 says John is cool. He makes bald look sexy. I had to read that, John.
I do.
Oh, that is awesome. So many awesome comments. We're going to get to them. Go ahead, Tren.
So I never really thought of that perspective, Andrea, about John seeing Daenerys in that moment. And, it kind of disappoints me that the producers didn't do a little bit better of a job. I wouldn't consider myself a casual fan. I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm not a casual fan. I think I've spent thousands of dollars on stupid merch and hours and hours and hours of my weeks talking about, reading about, thinking about, watching this series. So I don't think I fall into the category of casual fan.
Not
and
at
so
all.
for me to have missed that, what you just explained, Andrea, about John seeing her for like kind of power hungry or whatever, I would have to defend the fandom who was in my boat of, we didn't really catch that on the first or second reading or watching of it. So I don't think it's fair to the fans to blame the fans. I think it would more fall on the producers to be like, hey, you guys didn't really come off clear enough with your point about, like, they really muddled the waters when it came to why John was pulling away from Dany. I think they did.
I agree too.
Yeah, they left it really ambiguous, but I watched
Right.
it like 18 times.
Right. So
There's
when
that.
you just explained that whole, this is probably the reason why, and I really think that you have explained it well and have really great justification and background for it, it does make sense that would be why John would be pulling back from her, and it would kind of give us a little deeper perspective into Dany's sort of transition into the Mad Queen or whatever. But they didn't relay that very well to the fans, and so I think that's why we have so much like division among the fandom right now, because they just rushed it. I hate to use that excuse. Good God, I hate to use that excuse because it's been played so much, but really they did. They just rushed it.
They absolutely rushed it. I do want to say that the one thing that I noticed as a general theme for this season, and I don't know if you guys did, it's very dialogue light. And so looking for clues that are in the dialogue itself isn't going to work because there's so little dialogue to be had in this entire season that you have to look at the nonverbal clues. And so in that essence, if you just go through and you watch the entire season with no volume on, you're going to have to figure out the story based on body language. And that's kind of where I was this entire season, was ignoring anything that was verbal at this point and going through and just watching all the nonverbal cues. And that's really where you pick up it all. It's all, the story is almost silent this whole entire season. And it was rushed, definitely rushed. George R. R. Martin even says it was rushed. Especially given the fact that the next two books may have at least 600 extra pages each book. It was rushed. So they could have extended the season to 10 total episodes, or even 12 total episodes if you didn't want to go past 8 seasons. They could have put the budget in knowing that it was going to make up the difference, but they chose not to. And it is what it is. I don't blame the fans for their interpretation on things, because they left this entire season open to interpretation. I think that was the entire point of it, to get mixed reviews, whether it was liked or it was unliked. And I think that's the great thing about this season in general, is that it is so controversial. And for all the reasons that people hate it, I find myself loving it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I had a question and I wanted to kind of piggyback here, but first I want to read Don't Throw to 20 from Get Vocal says, I only ever bought bought the Night King shit, and now when people ask me if he was a good villain, I just get upset and think how he went out. He goes on to say they wanted fans to love them together, so when John stabbed her, then it would hurt the fans more, but it didn't work out that way. I mean, it did a little bit for me, but what I don't understand is, and we were talking about dialogue and the way the characters were acting with their expressions. Did I miss something? Like, did John not want to sleep with Dan? Was there anything to do with them being related? Like, was there anything involved? Like, do you think that John was in conflict at all because they were related?
Find
Because
out from the dialogue because the dialogue did not reflect that.
John, I got a question for you. If there was anything you would like to see John do, would have liked to see John to have done better in this last season, what would it have been?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, I think maybe talking Danny down in right before she would burn the city. I think he should have spoke more about that. That's pretty much the only thing, because I don't think he really, outside of just maybe when they were in their room right before the battle at King's Landing, or I guess the burning of King's Landing, he should have talked her down and be like, you don't have to do this. We could take the city, whatever. But outside of that, I don't see he was pretty much good this season. So
There's nothing.
I would say just talk her down in that scene where, I mean, I don't think he could have like faked being with her and hook up with her, because I think but I think he could have talked her down, and I don't think he talked her down. You know, he could have been the voice of reason, and maybe she would never burn all
What? You wait. Repeat what you just said. He could have, but he didn't.
And then Andrea, you're up next. All right.
I disagree. Yeah, I think he should have talked her down. I disagree with everyone saying that he should have slept with her in that moment. I'm like, no, but at least he could have talked her down. But then again, I don't think she was listening to anyone, because Tyrion tried to talk her down, and she wasn't having it.
I'm sorry.
Andrea.
He kept saying, "You're my queen. You're my queen." He was talking her up, for fuck's sake.
No.
He wasn't. He was basically being like, "Oh yeah, you're great. You're fine. You're good. Like, you're my queen. I'll always fuck with you."
Yes. He just saw Varys get burned. She's already looking for enemies. He had to say that, because there's no way. He knows now that she's looking at enemies everywhere. That's why he said that. I know Andrew's gonna.
I'm not going to do this with you, John or Trin. I'm going to be completely objective with you both in this, okay? First of all, John wasn't talking Danny up when saying, "You're my queen, you're my queen." He was trying to placate her, which I think is something that anybody in that situation is going to try to do. When you're dealing with somebody who you need to put on kid gloves with, you need to try to figure out the best way to not set them off, which is not saying, you need to shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down, which he probably, okay, so first and foremost, let me just say the most controversial thing. He should have checked Danny. I'm sorry. I'm over it. I'm over Danny and her fucking tantrum. I'm over fucking John and his fucking...
Can I give you one example?
Yeah, you can. 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I'm over John and his, "You're my queen and I'm not a fucking pussyfoot around you" bullshit. John should have fucking picked Danny's ass up and set her ass the fuck down and been like, "Sit the fuck down and pipe the fuck down. I'm over you. You need to chill the fuck out." Yes, I could fucking insert my fucking.
He did the opposite, though.
He did the opposite, and he should have done what I'm saying he should have done.
Yeah,
and
I agree. I agree.
think for a lot of feminists, this is arguable, but Danny should have been put in her fucking place. And I don't mean this in a he's a man and she's a woman kind of place. It means that Danny was spinning the fuck out, and John should have stepped the fuck up and been like, "Get your fucking shit together." I'm sorry. At every point in time, somebody needs a fucking check in reality. And John should have put Danny in her fucking place. And that's where John fucked up at. He shouldn't have slept with her. He shouldn't have fucking pleaded with her. He shouldn't have fucking tried to placate her. She's over fucking people placating her. And him talking her down would have done absolutely zero, John. She wasn't confiding in people anymore. I don't understand if you understand what the term premeditated means. She made up her mind. She had already made her decision. Nothing John would have said or done in that moment, short of checking her and putting her in her place.
Not true. And no, yeah. And the reason is because, okay, if you need to write this down, write it down. Go back to episode, is it 4? I think after the Battle of Winterfell, but before the bells. I believe that would be 4, when they're in the war room at Winterfell. And Sansa tells Dany very specifically. Dany says, "Okay, we need to get out of here. We need to go down to King's Landing and attack." And Sansa checks her and says, "Your people are fucking wounded. You need to
And she was
chill
right.
out. You need to chill out and let them heal." And Dany, of course, being the dragon that she is, was like, "No, we gotta go. We gotta go." And instead of being
John stepping up and
instead of being like the ice to temper the fire and chill her out,
no, she overran him.
John did the opposite. He was like, "Fuck my sisters and what they say, even though they have everybody's best interest in mind. I'm going to follow the queen. And because I'm King of the North or Warden of the North or whatever our title I hold, we're going to follow you and keep to our word." That's where John went wrong.
But I think that
enabled her in that moment.
I agree 100%. No, so there's no disagreement on my part. I'm a John fan through and through, but I 100% agree that John enabled her, just like every other person who had allowed their emotions to affect them in regards to Dany, allowed them to manipulate him. It is the same thing that Varys says. Do you really think that she'll want to share power? She basically, she overpowers everyone. She dominates everyone in her path. Anyone who has any type of emotional attachment to Dany whatsoever. And John was he was no exception to this rule, and neither was Tyrion. They enabled her. What I'm saying is John was wrong for that, and I don't think that any amount of John trying to talk her down in a reasonable manner would have changed anything, because John was obviously too swayed from her. Anything short of John getting his shit together and checking her, it wouldn't work. And he wasn't willing to get his shit together. I'm not justifying John's behavior whatsoever. He was an idiot for this. I mean, 100%. They made him literally useless. I 100% agree with you in the season. And it makes me really sad, because he kind of was like pointless fucking character this whole entire time. And I love him so much.
He had the best background, the best story, the best arc, trajectory, and they just didn't see it through or do anything with it. He could have
fucked up.
So much potential to do with his character, and they just didn't.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm not justifying his personal role in the situation. I know that in that situation, Sansa was 100% right. The army should have rested, and John should have backed them, because again, Dany is she's commanding a army of freaking mutants who don't complain about anything, and they're not Westerosi knights, and they're not from Westeros. Unfortunately, she's fighting for Westeros, and so she needs to understand the politics and the people of Westeros and what they need, what they require in order to be able to lead them. You have to understand them. And so John, he was wrong, and Sansa was right in that situation, and I don't take that from Sansa. And there's, like I said, there are very few times that I'll find myself defending Sansa, and in that episode, I was 100% on her side with the whole entire telling Tyrion about Jon's parentage, everything about it. I'm 100% on Sansa's side. I don't think she did anything wrong in that situation. I think that one person in the wrong in that situation in the whole entire episode was Dany, and Jon for not fucking speaking up.
Okay, good. Okay.
Now, we have some comments I want to have my co-host read. I'll have probably Trin read some of the Get Vocal in YouTube if you can. And John, I want you to read what's going on Facebook. But before I do that, I want to mention we have about 8 minutes left for the YouTube and the Facebook live stream. Now, what does that mean? That means we still have a show recording here. We're still recording the show, but the program I'm using only allows me to do 2 hours of live streaming on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. If you guys want to continue the live show with us, you'll have to switch over to Get Vocal. I left a link in the video chat on BehindTheIronThrone.tv, the YouTube, and in Facebook. So in less than 10 minutes, I guess we're about 7 minutes out now. If you want to continue with us live, you'll have to switch over to Get Vocal. You can get it for free on the App Store for Android or iOS. The Android app does have a few issues, or you can do it on any computer, but I would use the Chrome browser. It works really good on Chrome.
And you folks need to come over and talk to us, because I know that Chris and myself, being Eastern Standard Time, are giving up sleep to be here. So if we're giving up sleep, come over, ask your questions. Now's the time.
Sleep is overrated.
Okay. It is overrated.
Ask somebody who never does.
If you can't stay with us live, then you can always get the podcast after the fact. My first pick is Podbean. You can get us on Podbean, iTunes, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, pretty much everywhere. We're all over the place. If you have any issues, you can message us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne, and we can point you in the right direction there. Join our club, BTIT. Be a part of our Facebook, be a part of our YouTube, subscribe, like, share. That way you always get a notification when we go live. What else did I want to announce real quick? And of course, if you have any show ideas, any questions, any comments, anything positive, or any kind of any feedback to help us make the show better, behind the Iron Throne at gmail.com. Behind the Iron Throne at gmail.com. Or, that's the easiest way to message us with email, because Twitter's a pain, and all that other stuff, just emails. Okay, so that being said, the links are already in the chats. So all you got to do is use those links and get over to Get Vocal. And if you go to Get Vocal and you like it, you can subscribe to us there as well. That way you get a notification when we're live, and you can see when we're about to go live. And there's a lot of really awesome stuff at getvocal.com. So check it out. And thank you to the people that already came over. Awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce.
Comments. Trini, can you get us caught up on some of the comments on the Get Vocal and the YouTube for your guys' topic about the Jon Snow question I gave to Jonathan Stomas?
What was the name, or what was the actual question that you gave to John?
The actual question was, what should Jon have done better? And I originally asked Jonathan Stomas Starklover, and his response was to rein in Dany, right? Was that your response? That's what he should have done better?
Yep, that was his response.
Yeah, and I think we did talk about, and Andrea made a really good point earlier about if you were to watch the episode maybe like with the sound off, and you just had to sort of pull out what you thought was happening according to body language or facial expressions or something like that. Like, that's pretty powerful. And I haven't tried to do that yet with this episode. If I had a little bit more time to even rewatch it a second time, like, I would want to do that, want to watch it multiple times, and maybe even do like an entire 80 minutes where I had no closed captioning or I had no sound on, so that I could just kind of read the room per se, in as far as what was going on with these characters without being able to hear the dialogue, because they are such powerful actors and they do put them in positions where they, especially Cersei. I have to say that Cersei, the last couple of episodes, we didn't see a whole lot of her, and she really didn't have very much dialogue at all. But because she's such a powerful actress, you could read her language just from her facial expressions, and it was very powerful. And she did such an amazing job, Lena Headey. But what, for a little comic relief, I'm kind of looking forward to the whole. If you guys are familiar with the bad lip reading videos that you can find on YouTube, they do like Star Wars.
Oh, fun.
What is it?
They have one on Game of Thrones called Medieval Funland.
Oh, yeah. Medieval Funland, it's hilarious. But they do like a bunch of Star Wars ones where they take a Star Wars clip and then someone will do lip reading over it, and they'll dub over it. That would be kind of amazing for the season 8 of Game of Thrones, because they could just do that, and you could probably come up with a whole bunch of insane stuff just by virtue of how like the plot twists were going constantly.
John, can you get us caught up on Facebook?
Yeah, so we got Steven Baggs goes, Jon Snow was good as a prop this season. Irina goes, ooh, can I say one? If I could pick one thing, it would be this. When the bells rang, Dany backs down, but then approaches the Red Keep, and Cersei, who then executes a torture Missandei right then and there, ensuring rage from Dany at the moment. Naomi goes, Jon was a pushover in regards to Dany. Naomi goes, Dany is exceptional at making people fall for her, unromantic or otherwise. Robert goes, Jon lost his mojo once Sam revealed his lineage. He lost his identity as Ned's son and his ability to act accordingly. Irina goes, I have to go back to my email when it comes to Jon and Dany. In her mindset, yes, he placated it. He placated it, but she was already enabled. You can't undo enabling a little child in a split second. You just sit and listen to them, and that's about all. Naomi goes, dudes, I got back on Facebook just for you, and now I got to download another thing. And Irina goes, Jon was himself. I can't say that he actually could have done much, but he could have at least opened his mouth and said some things for once. Have a heart-to-heart or two with Dany. Tell her and her allies about him and about the North, like just talk to each other, you know.
Back to what I said about the sorry, Andrea, I didn't mean to cut you off. I know you wanted to talk. Going back to that one scene back in the Winterfell's war room, before John was staunchly defending Dany and agreeing with her against his sisters, there was a couple of moments where Tyrion was presenting some tactical strategies, and Dany had lost such faith in Tyrion that you can read the body language that you were just talking about, Andrea, and Dany's facial expressions and her body language were almost in disgust by what Tyrion was proposing that they should do according to everything that was going on in the map.